Pawel Kwak Amber Ale.
And remember, life is too short to be drinking shitty beer.
Welcome to another edition of Bands, Bikes and Booze Reviews. This one is one of these revisiting videos, and it's revisiting this stuff. This is the Pawel Kwak Amber beer from Bosteels Brewery. Now, if you've heard of Bosteels, they're quite a famous Belgian brewer. They do the triple Carmelite, I should say, which is a very, very good Belgian triple. In fact, it's been reputed to be one of the best triples in the world. To be honest, I don't think that's true. It's good, don't get me wrong. I think the Trappist triples, like Vesmal and stuff like that, I think they are marginally better, but I should do a comparison really. I wanted to revisit that because they've started doing, in Morrison's, they've started doing triple Carmelite again in big 750ml bottles, and I would actually drink a 750ml bottle. It's fucking 8% though, Jesus, I don't know what state I'll be in afterwards. But Morrison's have really pulled out all the stops now, and they're stocking some really good Belgian beer. They're doing this stuff, and I really like this. And they used to do it in the Wetherspoons pubs, and they stopped doing it. And that really pissed me off, but they stopped doing a lot of good beer in the Wetherspoons. I know I mention it in a lot of videos, but that was one that I really did like and drank it on several occasions, but sadly it is no more in the Wetherspoons. But luckily Morrison's have got it, and they're really good. So they've got some really good Belgian beers, as I was saying. They've got the Blanche de Brussels, which I've got in the fridge. I'm not going to revisit that one. I may do actually, but I might drink it after this. I'm not going to review it though. I've already had a couple. They also do the Chimay stuff. Now that blonde is, well, everything Chimay do, in my opinion, is absolutely fantastic. And they're doing that, and it's superb. And I always make a point of buying it. But for me, the biggest boon is they do Vesmal for £2.50 a bottle, and that's their triple, which is excellent. So I don't know who's buying the beer for Morrison's, but yeah, it needed changing. It was looking very tired, and they've introduced some really good ones, and here we are now. I'll just give you a quick update on what's been happening with the studio. Glazers finally came. He came the other day. He did a good job. He put the door in, put the window in. It's now looking quite good. I was going to do a video of it, but I won't. I'm going to wait till the insulation's all done, so it looks a bit more like a studio. I've got some soffits to put up as well. There's a bit of a problem with the damp proofing as well. The floor's on the piss, so I've had to fill it full of expanding foam, and I've also had to mastic it as well. So I'm going to see how that turns out tomorrow. I may even have to put some levelling compound on the floor because the floor's looking really uneven, and I don't really want an uneven floor, so I may have to do that as well. Percy didn't help. He came in and he pissed all over everything, so he got thrown out and put in the doghouse, literally. But yeah, it's taking shape and it's looking good, and I'm quite pleased with it. I'm looking towards the end of June, maybe mid-July, to when it's finished. I'll probably do my reviews in there, or I'll do a lot of reviews. I'll also do when I do the bass guitar covers and all that, and I may introduce some recording tips. I'm getting into recording. I might not have been recording stuff now for 10 years, but I may put some recording stuff. It's probably, if you're into the beers, you probably won't like it, but just take it with a pinch of salt. There's still going to be a lot of beer reviews, etc, etc. Anyway, Percy's sleeping down there now. If you hear snoring, or if you hear me saying that is disgusting, it's because he's farting. I don't know what he's eating, but his farts can strip wallpaper at the moment. It smells like burning rubber. It is not good. And relax. All he's got. I took him out for a walk. I took both of them out for a walk today in my shorts, and the weather's quite nice, so I decided to take them out. And I got my legs stung, and my legs are absolutely fucking tingling now, where I've been stung by stinging nettles. And I'm not going to show you them, but Yeah, you don't really want to see my legs. They're not the greatest. They're not the longest either. Bastards. Anyway, let's get on to the beer. This is... I forgot about the brewery. Let me just give you a quick rundown on the brewery. This is brewed by Bosteels. Now, Bosteels are a really old Belgian brewer, and they've been around since, I think, 1790 or 1791, certainly around the time of the Napoleonic Wars. And the glass that this stuff is drunk out of, traditionally, you've got to remember, this came about in the 1980s. This is not an old beer. This is quite new, considering the history of the brewery. But it was drunk in what looked like a Vit beer glass, which is a wheat beer glass. Sorry, not a Vit beer glass. It looked like that, but it's got like a bulbous bottom on the end of it. And the reason for that was there was a innkeeper at the time who used to stock Bosteels beer, and a lot of the coaches used to stop there because the coach and horses was the only sort of means of transport for some people, and they would stop there, but the coachman wouldn't be allowed to leave the coach and horses. So this enterprising innkeeper designed a glass that could be hung on the side of the coach, when it meant that the driver, I'm not sure, well, obviously encouraging drink driving, but back then it's a little bit different when you've got horses, but it meant that he didn't have to leave the coach and horses because they weren't allowed to do that, so he could have a drink on the coach, which was quite ingenious, and obviously it became very popular with coaches as a coach stop. And they took that, Pawel Kwak took, Bosteels, I should say Pawel Kwak. Bosteels took that design and they used it for the Pawel Kwak beer. And if you look on the, can you see that on the side of the label? That's what the glass looks like. See the bulbous bottom on it, and the top of it looks like a German wheat beer glass. I'm going to be drinking out of that. The nearest I've got to that is a fucking drinking horn. And if I drank it out of that, then you're not really going to see what the beer looks like, so I won't be doing that. I have actually drank out of that. I drank out of that in 2014. I went to Sonosphere, which is like a metal festival, and it's probably one of the best lineups I've seen at a festival ever. Slayer, Anthrax. Anthrax played 2 nights. I quite like Anthrax. They're not bad. They're not my favourite, but they're not bad. Slayer were absolutely amazing. Mastodon played. Who else? There was a punk band called the Bronx, who I really liked. They were there. The Dropkick Murphys were there. I'm mates with a drummer. That was really good. I didn't get on the guest list though. Wasn't allowed. Who else? There was a couple of other bands. It was an absolutely... The Prodigy played. Metallica, Iron Maiden, and it was really good. And I got very, very drunk. I bought a jacket, smuggled in a load of beer. I bought this old army surplus jacket, and it had loads of hidden pockets, and I managed to get in, because you weren't allowed to bring your own drink in there. You had to buy it from the vendors, and it was fucking expensive. So I thought, fuck you lot, I'm bringing in my own beer. And I did. I brought a load of cans in. Can't remember what I was drinking. It was probably something ghastly, knowing me back in 2014, probably Stella or something. Anyway, let's get on to the beer. Right, this is a 330ml bottle. It is Pawel Kwak. It's an amber ale, and it's a beer that's been introduced in 1980. I'll give you a little hint of what it's not. It's not a typical Belgian beer. They've really, and they do say it on the label as well, they do make an emphasis on the malt on this beer, and it tastes really good, and it reminds me of an English beer, and that's why I think I like it. So, and that, you know, that's why I've bought it. It's 8.4%, so you cannot fucking session this. Well, you can if you want to get absolutely roaring drunk, and you will be the victim of what I call Belgian legs, is when you don't realise, and I've had that happen to me a couple of times, and it ain't pretty. So, there you go. Let's get it open, and let's see what's going on. The missus is babysitting tonight, which is handy. No shouts up the stairs going, Karen, can you do this? There's the cat. Pawel Kwak. Don't know who Pawel Kwak is. And I'm using this glass. This is a Schneider Weiss glass. It's the nearest I've got to the actual glass it's supposed to be drunk out of. It's quite elaborate. I'm sure you've seen them. It's got a wooden stand, and yeah, it's a bit of a marketing thing. It doesn't make the beer taste any nicer. And there you go. Nice amber colour, deep amber colour. Lots of carbonation in that. You can see that. Nice head on it. 3-finger white, foamy white head, off white slightly. Yeah, and the aromas. What I perceive as sort of a candy sugar, sweet malt type aroma. There's a little bit of ethanol on that as well, but it's quite nice. And there's that, on the aroma you do get a hint of clove on there as well, which some people may not like, but stick with it and you will get used to it. Speaking of clove, I went to a bar yesterday in Maidstone in Kent. There is a brewer called Old Dairy. It's a local Kent brewer, and they started doing a Bavarian Hefeweizen, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And I had, I think it was 3 pints of it, and they ran out of it, and I was absolutely gutted. I did ask whether they were going to do it again. They don't know. So Old Dairy, if you're watching, sort it out. It's a good one. Anyway, back to this beer. Yeah. Yeah, so you got all the aromas I've just described. There is that ethanol on there, I can get that, and at 8.4% you would expect that. But it does smell nice. Let's get it down the hatch. Bottoms up. Wow. That always happens with Belgian beer. The strong Belgian beer. I always get just ethanol on the first mouthful, so I'm going to have to dive in again. I think your palate needs to adjust to that ethanol, and once it has, then all the other flavours come out. So I'm just going to dive in again. Yeah, that's nice. Quite malty. There's caramel malt and a little touch of toffee, not a lot, but it's mainly caramel. There's a sweetness to it, which I'm perceiving that to be candy sugar. The ethanol is there, of course, and that's quite a big seam of ethanol that runs through that. Carbonation's good. It's bordering on abrasive, but it's not quite, if you know what I mean. So you are getting the flavours moving around the mouth and all that, but it's just holding back so as it's not too obtrusive, which again I like. And this is turning out to be quite a nice one. Yeah, very drinkable. And I really should stop because I'm necking this like it's going out of fashion. This is one to be savoured. And if you're a fan of, well, yeah, I would say very strong English beers like barley wines and stuff like that, you're going to like this because it's quite complex. It's got the clove, a very, very subtle vanilla that you may not pick up, but I can sort of get that. But it's quite nice. The ethanol, of course, is big. And as I say, barley wine has got a lot of these characteristics. And the malt on it as well. I mean, that really is quite a malt forward beer for a Belgian stuff. Now, the Belgian stuff, the big emphasis is on spice, ethanol, and the herbal type flavours. But this has got a fair amount of malt in it as well, which makes it a little bit different from all the other amber beers that you get. Very much like a barley wine, a good barley wine. In fact, If this was packaged as an English barley wine, I'd say it was excellent. The ABV is a little bit under for a barley. Well, I'm saying it's a little bit under. It's not really. You can get barley wines that are 8%. In fact, in this country, because of the government interfering with the amount of units you can drink, etc., 7.4 now seems to be the agreed standard, certainly for the stuff that, you know, the gold label stuff that is brewed by, I think, Marston's. That's crap. Don't bother with that. The best barley wine, in my opinion, is Tally Ho by Adnams. That's a fantastic barley wine. But if this was marketed as, you know, just put it in a different bottle as a barley wine, and I tasted it, I'd say it was a very complex, very good English style barley wine. But it's not. It's got little touches of the Belgian characteristics in there, with the clove coming from the yeast in there, and it's nice, I have to say. Yeah, lovely. And I'm going to have to stop because I'm drinking this. I'm really restraining myself from drinking it. I'm going to put it down now, because if I carry on drinking more of this, it's going to go straight to my head, and I've already had a couple. So, safety first. So, what's the verdict on Pawel Kwak? Yeah, it is good. And it's not a new one. Obviously, I've reviewed it before on the channel, and I can't remember when that was. I can't even remember what the mark was that I gave it. But I remember liking it then, and I still like it now. It's a good one. And in fact, if anything, I like it a little bit more, if you know what I mean. And I do miss it being in the pubs, certainly in the Wetherspoon pubs, and it's such a shame that it's not there, but it is there now in the Morrison's supermarkets. So you can get this relatively easy if you want to try it. I'd recommend it. Personally, and I've been drinking this for a long time, so this is nothing new to me. I'm just going over old ground, just in case people have missed the other video or whatever. And I wanted to, because my palate does change. This is why I do these revisiting videos. It's because your palate adjusts, and when you try certain beers, other beers you thought were good, you try other beers of a similar style and you think, well, that's much better than that, and I thought that was the best one. So I think it's good to do these revisiting videos, if for nothing else, my pure vanity to see how my palate has changed. But I liked this before and I still like it now. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I like it that much, and I always make a point of buying it when I go to Morrison's. Well, since they've had it in anyway, and yeah, I will continue to do that because it is a very nice beer. I should get the Vesmal and the Triple Carmelite and do a comparison video with them too, because they're pretty good from what, well, the Vesmal Triple is superb. It's one of the best triples. There are others, but that is a good one. So yeah, maybe on my next trip I will do that. But for me, that's 9 out of 10. Get yourself down to Morrison's, get some, and try some of the other Belgian stuff as well. I mean, it's really good. If they've got the Chimay stuff, I urge you to get some of that, because it's a really good blonde, and it's, you know, they do Leffe and they do Chimay, and it really shouldn't even be an option. You should always go for the Chimay. Leffe is just a fucking poor, well, it's not a poor, it is a shitty imitation of what Chimay is doing. But I urge you to get some of that. Try the Blanche de Brussels as well. That's a really nice Belgian Vit beer. If you've not tried Belgian Vit beer before, that is a good one to start off with, because it's a little bit sweeter than most Belgian Vit beers, and I really like it. It's a good one. And of course you've got the Hofbräu Original. So I'm not sponsored by Morrison's or anything like that, but I have to say their beer selection has improved. And if you're into your craft beer, well, then the fucking world is your oyster, because they've got loads. They've got some from Salt. They've got the usual Brewdog fucking bullshit. Don't buy that. That's fucking garbage stuff. But there's a lot there for you to try. Salt. They do some Cloudwater stuff, I think, and some various other craft brews. To be honest, I didn't really look at the craft brew stuff. I was more interested in the traditional stuff. And they've got some good English stuff there as well, like the Ossett Brewery and the usual favourites, Adnams, do a few of theirs. They do the Old Peculiar as well, which is a great pint. So yeah. Anyway, enough about Morrison's. That's great, and I'm off. Before I go, beer is working class. Champagne.